Now you're changing you're moving the goalposts. At first, you're like, no, I never did it. You drank yourself into oblivion.
Quite frankly, it seemed like he was a bit prejudiced whenever he said I drank myself into oblivion. Your court, Judge Boyd, was told Bullsh.
Welcome to Bench Report Court Cam.
Court is calling 2024 CR 5390, State versus George Hawkins III. Could I have parties announce?
Andrew Harrison, State.
Brant Hardy for the defendant.
Are you Mr. Hawkins?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you review the document entitled Motion to Enter Adjudication of Guilt and Revoke Community Supervision with your attorney? Did you understand it?
Yes.
Are you the same George Laverne Hawkins III who was placed on deferred adjudication in 2024 CR 5390 for the offense of assault on a peace officer or judge on August 8, 2024 for a period of 8 years? Is that you?
Yes.
All right, State, you may proceed.
On or about the 30th day, April 2025, in Bear County, Texas, the defendant George Laverne Hawkins III committed the offense of criminal trespass violation.
How do you plead to that? True or not true?
State waives the remaining violation allegation.
Any objections?
No, Your Honor.
Did you understand by pleading true to violation of condition number 1, the court could find it true, grant the motion, find you guilty, and sentence you up to 20 years in prison and up to $10,000 fine?
Yes.
Knowing that, do you still wish to plead true to violation of condition number 1?
Yes.
Court will find violation of condition number 1 true. Is there a proposed agreement?
Yes, Judge. Deny the motion, alter and amend. State will take into consideration submissively new offense, although we request a no contact order with Cross Towers located at 111 West Houston Street.
And what is the cause number?
2025 CC 006392.
All right, counsel, is that the agreement?
It is, Judge.
All right, you want to raise your right hand for me, please? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
All right, you can lower your hand, state your name for the record.
George Laverne Hawkins III.
All right, so why were you at Frost?
Well, it began whenever I relapsed. I was a year sober on methamphetamines.
Mhm.
I was in drug court. I actually wrote a letter to explain it all to you.
Mhm.
You would like to see that, but I could explain it in words.
Sure.
So I was actually doing really good in drug court, and it kind of took me by shock whenever the district attorney in drug court, put in the motion to revoke, because I had been a year sober. I had been going to all the meetings. I was in Rosetta Keys, going to groups 2 times a week, and also the individual sessions with Tammy Banfield, and also I was seeing the judge during these sessions each month, and I was also seeing Elsa Guajardo over at.
So there has to be more going on, because felony drug court would not put you out of their program just because you started using again. So there's something. What else is going on?
I did make a few slight mistakes whenever I was in drug court.
Let me just tell you, it takes more than that. So let me explain something to you. I am trying to decide whether or not to follow this agreement that's been reached with the state and the defense.
Mhm.
Now, I don't have to follow it because your contract is not with them, it's with the court. I could sentence you to 20 years. But I'm trying to figure out what's going on with you and why you were put out of felony drug court. And what I can tell you, because I've been an attorney in felony drug court, they do not put people out of the program because you relapsed. They do not put you out of the program because you're making bad choices here or there. What they try to do is they try to correct those issues. Now, if you disappeared on them, they only have so much time that they can allow you to be on a warrant and you've disappeared.
Yeah.
So there has to have been something else going on other than you relapsed and you made some bad choices here or there. So why do you feel that they put you out of the program?
You're probably not gonna, you
No, I mean, at the end, let me just tell you, at the
my
end,
belief is because the district attorney changed from what the bailiffs in the courtroom and Judge Glenn's courtroom told me, she had only been there for a month.
Mhm.
So she wasn't able to actually see my progression throughout the process while I was in drug court for 8 months. I mean, I was at Lifetime for 3 of those months. I've been going to Judge Glenn's courtroom as required and going to my meetings with Elsa as required, going to my meetings with Tammy Banfield as required. And with the exception of two miscues, the last one being the close to the 30th there, whenever I relapsed. And also going up late to my probation officer.
Mhm.
Those were the few mistakes that I made. I mean,
because usually they give you some options. They tell you, look,
I thought
we're going to try this last time, but we're going to do zero tolerance with you, or there's something else. So you're telling me this is all that's going on with them?
it baffled me as well. I was kind of speechless whenever I left there. And, I wasn't on my medication because I just had gotten, but from what I gathered, it all just seemed very confusing to me. I don't understand why they decided to, because the last thing I heard from Elsa Guajardo,
Mhm.
she from meetings going to 2 times a month, she switched it to 1 day a month.
Mhm.
She said, because I've been doing so well. And the same thing with Tammy Banfield. She gave me less meetings, group meetings than the other peers in my group because I was doing so well. She even called me one of her best students. And I was on page 7, or I was on the 7th step out of the 12 steps of the MRT book. And I even got housing at the VA residential housing at the GI Forum. And I mean, I was doing well, but all of it, that the one relapse, that did mess me up because I ended up losing my housing at the GI Forum, and which led me to going through the bank. I mean, I had tried so many places to get water, and then I was just, I had gotten sprayed in the face with mace because I was sleeping outside of a hospital because I got kicked out of the GI. Really, it's just I've been struggling with the addiction, with not having a job, which I attribute, the fact that I was able to get a job to drug court. Drug court did help me a lot, and Lifetime helped me a lot, which is kind of surprising why I was offered Lifetime again, which I would really like the opportunity to do that because I think they did well, especially Darnell over there at Lifetime Recovery. And they also helped me get my identification straight. They even got my driver's license back and all my IDs, and they put me in the door to housing. And it was just a great help to me. And I mean, I don't understand. I even saw you at the graduation ceremony. It was nice seeing you there as well. And I had gotten a job. I hadn't had a job in 2 years. I'd been unemployed, but I did end up getting a job just by looking at the bulletin board in drug court.
All right. So just one second.
Yeah. Yes,
Ms. Abrams, do you know why he was released from felony drug court?
Judge, it states on here, he had that new charge. It was a new offense on 5/1/2025,
Mhm.
and then on 5/14, he admitted relapsing. So that new number 1 automatic kind of brings it back to us.
All right. So it's the new number 1 and not just the relapse, because I know felony drug court would not put you out of program for a relapse because sometimes.
Were you there?
Oh, myself?
Mhm.
Oh, since the very beginning, since its inception. And I was there as a defense attorney
Yeah.
for that full time until I joined the DA's office.
Right.
Yeah. So years upon years upon years.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So Then if the state is taking care of the new number one, Ms. Abrams, can we see if felony drug court will accept him back?
Judge, I was gonna, yes, I was actually told a program manager, but she doesn't want to be online.
Okay.
If you give me a moment.
All right, just have a seat. We're gonna see. All right.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Judge.
You're welcome. Defense, I don't know if this agreement will work out. I forwarded to Ms. Abrams what they're saying. So the email that I have, what do you think the email is saying? Well, let's start with this. Did you abscond from the sober living house, yes or no?
No.
Oh, okay. Then we're going to need people here because it says Mr. Hawkins absconded and left the sober living house he was staying at.
What exactly is abscond? To run away from? I didn't.
You left and you did not return. Did you
They
leave?
kicked me out. They packed my bags and left them on the front hallway.
No, that's not what's saying here. And then,
Wait, okay, the sober living home, which one? Because I was at a sober living house.
well, let me ask you this. Did you ever leave a sober living home, a sober living house, and not return?
The one at 14823 Bending Point Drive, the one that I went
Now,
to.
my question is, did you ever leave? See, this is the problem. When people are in their drug addiction,
I was asked.
they want you to be very, if you're not specific with your words, then there's a lot of wiggle room. And I'm getting a lot of wiggle room from you. So let me just end it right here. They said that you left, absconded, you left the sober living home, you did not return. That's what they mean by absconded. You were not supposed to leave there and not return. You left and didn't return. Then they said you had this major relapse. Then after you had the major relapse, you pick up a new charge. Then they still don't want to kick you out because I've been in felony drug court and I knew they just wouldn't kick him out for a relapse or even leaving the sober living house because sometimes that happens. Sometimes people don't do the program perfectly. That's why you're there. Then they said they offered you residential treatment and you refused to follow the plan set forth by the judge.
I'm speechless again. I mean,
No, I'm not, because that's what it says. I don't think Judge Glenn would be dishonest about saying that they offered you residential treatment and you turned it down.
I don't remember that. But then again, Your Honor, I wasn't on any medication when they questioned me.
And do you remember leaving the sober living home
That
and
part,
not returning
it
and
was,
then drinking yourself into oblivion?
it was the American GI Forum. I did go out without requesting to go out.
And you never returned?
I came back the next day.
Mm.
And then when I came back, I stayed there for like 2 days and then they told me I had to leave.
No, they said you absconded, you left, you never returned.
The staff at the GI Forum told me I had to leave.
And then they offered you residential treatment and you declined.
They as in drug court, that part I don't.
He refused to follow the plan set by the judge.
I don't remember a plan, but then again, I forget things because I'm heavily medicated.
See, that is the thing. This is what I tell everybody. When people are in the throes of their addiction, the stories they tell sound so true. Like when he stands up here and he told me, he said, I was doing great. I just had this one relapse. I don't understand what the issue is.
But
Now we understand that it was more than just the one relapse, which is what I thought. It was you leaving the sober living home. And even I've been in drug court before where people have left their sober living homes because they go back, they have a relapse, and then everybody's working, trying to get them back into compliance by trying to, probation officers go to their old hangouts. They even will, if somebody used to hang on a corner, they'll even go to that corner, ask people around, hey, have you seen this person? Because they are desperately trying to get that person back into compliance, back clean and sober, because that's what they want. So I knew that there had to be something else going on. If it was just this one time, I was doing so great, then I relapsed. No. And then even though you absconded from the sober house, even though you relapsed, they still wanted to work with you and they wanted to put you in residential treatment. It was offered to you and they came up with a plan. What I do know is sometimes when people are in the throes of their addiction, they want to make their own plan. And I tell them, you can't make your own plan.
Your Honor, one way to make sure that this is accurate would be to just call GI Forum and ask them what happened. They would say they kicked me out.
No,
did
I'm
not
gonna
have
talk,
a
here's the
sponsor.
thing. That whole thing about the sober living house, that whole thing about you're relapsing, that's not even the big picture. You know why? Because felony drug court was still gonna work with you. And they had set up a plan. They came up with a plan for you that involved residential treatment. And you said no.
I wasn't even on medication at that time when they questioned me with all these questions. I mean, I don't understand the law as well as y'all do.
See, so here's the thing. Now you're changing you're moving the goalposts. At first you're like, no, I never did it. I never turned down residential treatment. No residential treatment was never offered to me. And now we're on this kick where now you're saying, well, I don't understand all legal things that are going on. The legal things that's going on when a judge tells you you absconded from the sober living house, you've relapsed, we're going to try to get you back in compliance by you're going to a residential treatment. And then you say, no, you're not following that plan. So counsel, here's the court's issue. Felony drug court wanted him in inpatient treatment. He said, no, there is nothing I can do for him. So if you all are coming before me and you all want me to follow this agreement you have where he goes into residential treatment, not going to happen because felony drug court has already offered him residential treatment. And he said, no, this is somebody who's writing his own plan. And now they want to come to me because this is sort of like the end of the line where felony drug court, now they're really serious because now I'm before this judge and my only choice is to go to inpatient. I'm not going to follow that because he was given the option to go to inpatient treatment. He didn't want to.
You know what occurred during that meeting with Judge Glenn? And Elsa Guajardo, I told her that the charge that I was initially in here for with Superior Court Judge Boyd was total bullshit. That the cop
So
lied.
here's the thing.
The cop lied.
Here's the thing. We're on the record. You are even going further afield of what we're here for. This whole thing, you were placed on probation out of this court in August. This whole thing that maybe this didn't happen, that ship has sailed because you entered a plea to it. You entered a plea of no contest. Stipulations were put in the record. I read them. I found that there was sufficient evidence to find you guilty, and I placed you on deferred.
Did you watch
And
the
you
video?
can't, here's the thing, you keep moving the goalposts. You said the only thing that happened to you in felony drug court was you relapsed and you were doing so great and you didn't understand why they kicked you out of the program. Now we have this email that your attorney said, yes, please email them and see what's going on. Now I have an email that says you absconded from the sober living facility. And then you come back at me, oh no, I just left for the day and I came back and my bags were packed. And then we come to the point that you abscond from the sober living facility, then you relapse. And then I say, that's not even the issue with felony drug court because that's happened to people in felony drug court before. They still try to work with you. So then here's the third thing. You do all of that in felony drug court and felony drug court tells you, we will give you residential treatment. That's the plan. And you tell them no.
Okay, Your Honor. As far as the whole residential treatment, the what you're referring to, the sober living facility, I stayed 1 month at a sober living house. That 1 month was up. The manager of the sober living house, he told me, you don't have a job right now, so you can't pay, so you get out. He packed up all my bags. I had to move. I moved into the American GI Forum. And around that date, April 30th, well, it was actually April 26th, I picked up and used. I used meth. I drank alcohol that night. I continued to do it for a couple of days. That night when I did pick up and use and I drank, I called the UA line that morning and they said, come into UA. When I did that, so at that point, I didn't make the UA. When And then I went back to American GI Forum. And then at that point, they said, well, they figured out they seemed to have thought I was high on meth, or because I wasn't acting right, and then all that. So I just kept myself in my room. I was using meth in my room with American GIs. I'm not lying. And they put two and two together, and then they said, you're gonna have to leave here. I had no other place to go. At that point, I went out and slept on the street, at the church, at the Christus Hospital. I slept outside the hospital. A security guard came, sprayed me with mace in my face. Never was asleep. And then I walked to the frost bank to get water, to get it out of my eyes. Did that work? No, I got arrested. That's where the criminal trustworthiness comes into play.
All right, so let's get to the point where, because according to the email, they say that you absconded and you left the sober living you were staying at. You know what? Let's assume that what you're telling me is the truth about that. Okay. They say the next thing you did was you drank yourself into oblivion and used meth and pick up a new charge. Okay. And this is what felony drug court is saying. Felony drug court's like, hey, he left the sober living home, did not return. You're saying you returned. Then he relapsed and he picked up a new charge. But you know what this email says? It says you left the sober living home, you relapsed, you picked up a new charge. Then after all of that, guess what felony drug court says? We don't want you out of program. We want to still work with you. And they come up with a plan. And that plan is for you to be in residential treatment, and you refuse to follow the plan. So this whole thing about you absconding from the sober living home, about your relapsing, about your picking up a new charge, that's not really the sole reason that you were released from felony drug court. The reason why you were expelled from felony drug court is because they had a plan for you, residential treatment, and you refused to go along with it. So now we're here. And what I can tell you is I'm not following this agreement because I can't help you. Drug court tried to help you with residential treatment. And you said no. So I'm going to find you guilty. I'm going to revoke. I'm taking in consideration 2025 CC 006392. Give you credit for any time served. There's the therapeutic community. Is there any suggestion with regards to time? He's looking at 2 to 20 years.
Being familiar with the facts of the allegation. Cool.
All right, the underlying facts of the allegation, you can review the stipulation. The court remembers those, but I'll give you the stipulation.
Stop.
And counsel, if you would like to review the stipulations as well, you can.
My room facts.
Okay.
Quite frankly, it seemed like he was a bit prejudiced whenever he said I drank myself into oblivion, because how would he have even known that? He didn't even do an alcohol test or blood test on
Are
me.
you saying you didn't drink alcohol?
Not into oblivion,
All right. How many drinks did you have?
enough to where I was still sober.
All right. And how much meth did you have? Was that enough till you were sober as well? Okay.
You're on.
All right. So what are you recommending?
6 years.
Defense, are you in agreement to 6 years?
No, Judge, we'd ask for the minimum. Judge. By the officer's own admission, he wasn't seriously injured. I think thank you. Judge, I think reasonable people can disagree as to the defendant's intent at the time of the offense. So bearing that in mind, and given the fact, Judge, that this is his first felony, bearing all those into consideration, Judge, we'd ask for the minimum of 2 years.
All right. This is what the court will do. The court was, as previously stated, the court is finding number 1 true. The court will find you guilty, grant the motion, take in consideration 2025 CC 006392. Give you credit for any time served. The court will request the therapeutic community. Doesn't increase the amount of time that you're in custody, but if you sign up for it and they accept it, it'll help you with your sobriety. and I'll sentence you to 4 years in the prison. Did you review the document entitled Trial Court Certification of Defendant's Rights to Appeal with your attorney? Did you understand it and sign it?
Didn't read it, no,
Okay. Did you sign it?
I did.
All right. Well, what that is that's telling you whether or not you have a right to appeal. You have a limited right to appeal, and that right to appeal is as it relates to the allegations in the motion, not the fact that you were on deferred adjudication. You understand?
Limited as in what? I can't appeal.
No, you'll have to speak to your attorney. But what I can tell you is this. You entered a plea of true to violation of condition number 1. The court found it true. You are allowed to appeal that finding of true. All right. So that's your limited right to appeal. You don't have a right to appeal that, hey, I shouldn't have been on deferred adjudication for this, because that time has elapsed. Do you understand?
So the incident with the police officer, I cannot appeal.
Yes, you need to speak to your attorney with that. I'm just talking to you about this specific process with regards to your motion to revoke. So with regards to your motion to revoke, you have a limited right to appeal. That right to appeal is as it relates to the allegations in the motion in your plea of true. Because this is a felony conviction, you're not allowed to own or possess any weapons or ammunition. If you have a question over what a weapon or ammunition is, you'll need to speak to your attorney. All right, good luck to you, sir. Thank you.
Thanks for watching. Stick around longer and click the highlighted videos to your right. See you there.